Hi guys, yay, welcome to the badge panel. All right, so why don't we start? There is a very impressive, I'm a little biased, but there's a very impressive group of individuals up here on the stage. And so I'm gonna have them introduce themselves and what badges they're known for, and then we can get into some rapid fire questions, okay? Let's start with my team.
I'm Wire, I help out the toy makers. I don't do much.
That's Wire, he lies. Hi everyone, I'm Whisker.
I'm Zap, I do the vendor badges, or XOR is the group I'm from.
I'm Maddie, also one of the toy makers, and we do the CypherCon badges. We have done DC26, and we do now the disc badges.
Michael, or Compukidmike. MK Factor is our badge thing, and so we did DEF CON last year, and we'll do it this year, and we do St. Con for the last 5 years. Something like that.
Sure.
Carhacky Village.
And Carhacky
Yep.
Village.
Oh, wow, you guys do those too?
We did it 1 year.
Amazing. Amazing.
I'm Mike's wife, or Katie, from MK Factor.
I'm TwinkleTwinkle. I mostly am known for shitty add-ons and really annoying things that make crazy shark noises. It took me a week to make.
All right, well, let's go ahead and start. So apparently we have questions maybe coming from Discord. Okay, so we've got maybe questions coming from Discord. We'd love to take questions from you guys. And then we also had questions that we had from Twitter. So let's start with Twitter. And we'll try to keep these shortish answers. How about that? First one, how long does the initial concept or design phase last? Not just the physical structure of the badge, but the overall functionality.
It never ends. We're designing up until the end.
Okay.
For XOR, it's about a 15-month process, and there's usually about 3 months of overlap with the production of the previous year's badge that we're doing.
Yeah, we're different because we do several a year. I think the most we usually get is maybe, our parts are ordered and whatnot about 5 months out at the very least, unless they shut down the whole planet.
And I would say for toy makers, like if you're talking about just the initial concept and design, I would say it's a night where we sit and feature creep until we realize we should stop. And then we go from there, or fall asleep, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's always the badges that you design in 15 minutes that you shelve and you keep coming back to every year, and then you shelve it again, and now you have a pink fluffy flamingo.
Hey, yes, that's true. Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, it's been percolating for a while. All right. Why don't we take a picture from Discord, or picture, I have a question.
Okay, hardest badge to not only build but maintain through a con.
Hardest badge to build, not only maintain, sorry.
Not only build but maintain through a con.
Not only build, but maintain through a con. I should just give you the mic.
Which one do we have to fix the most?
Phone badge. I think for the toy makers, the phone badge was probably the one. Because we came to the con with like 130 complete, and we had to solder through the night and fix through the night to accommodate 400 badges.
The Hilton is very nice. They will let you stay in their bar until 6 a.m. and not even really bother you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us it was the cowboy badge with the SD cards. We were constantly replacing those things and troubleshooting with people, even after DEF CON. Not so much anymore, thankfully. Probably our St. Con 2019 badge. The board showed up to my house the day before the conference, and we assembled 1,200 of them with a group of volunteers, and it was nuts, and we had to reprogram them multiple times throughout the conference. It was horrible.
1,200?
And my husband has a thing about sandwich boards, so we had to screw all of the sandwich boards together that day as well, and put 26 buttons on each of them. It was a great time.
I haven't really had any trouble with the only handful I've made. My time is coming. But the first badge I helped someone build was a tribble badge, and it was made out of synthetic fur with a bunch of Adafruit off-the-shelf parts soldered together. And so we spent more time fixing our bad solder joints.
All right. MK Factor. Guys, day before? Dude, our thing doesn't even match up at all.
last year. What surprise is doing that?
That's true. That's true. All right, so let's take a question from one of you guys. Anybody? Does anyone have a question? Yes. Can we get a mic to?
Mine actually builds off that question. I was wondering about the N-non-XOR badge with the light pipes. How many light pipes did you replace after that?
Actually, not many. We carried these little Ziploc bags that look like some sort of narcotic. And if anyone was missing, we just hand them out. We intentionally bought, I don't know, maybe 30, 40% more than we needed. But it wasn't an issue I remember really having to deal with too much.
All right, next question. How do you deal with con operators? So we are very fortunate with CypherCon. Goetzman is an amazing operator. He,
I think you left, you can be honest.
no, no, truly. Like, there are many different con operators, and some are responsive, some are non-responsive, some are like to get into the weeds. But if you let the toy makers run with it, then we feature creep to our heart's content. And usually that just is ridiculous. So Goetzman is like perfect, you know. And it was his question, so.
What's it like dealing with the board houses doing really, really weird things? Like, do they get angry with you, or do they love you, or do they hate you, or what?
I can answer that. We don't care. Frankly, it's generally how it goes is we send them a design, and they will say, I don't know if this will work. And we say, please do it anyway to your best. Will you ask for a refund? Probably not. Okay. It works out 90% of the time. And if it doesn't, sometimes it's our fault, sometimes it's their fault. But the neat thing about it is, unless you're doing the really cool extreme stuff, it's stuff that's generally done after we get the boards from them. A lot of the really cool techniques and stuff, it doesn't matter if they're making a piece of RAM board or if it's making an art board. It's the exact same process. It's someone watching the machine, making sure that it keeps on running. They don't really pay attention. It's only when actually more of our frustration, in my experience, comes from when you give them a design and then someone whose job is to make slight corrections to make it easier for them to make, completely fuck up your board. I don't know about you guys, but that's been my hell.
We've had that fun. So like, they'll be like, you sure you want it this way? Yes, please make it this way, exactly like this. Do not change it, but every now and then they'll change it. And it's kind of frustrating, but they're usually pretty good to work with and we'll produce another set.
What are you saying?
In my experience, the US fabs are a lot easier to deal with on that end, mostly because the language is not really as much of a barrier, there's not as much time delay, and it's easier to communicate, this is my intent. I want to make art, I don't necessarily care about your manufacturing process. They'll charge you for it, but.
Yeah, and I think for us, the only complaint we've ever had is, so we design our art in 1200 DPI, and sometimes that causes our file sizes to be extremely large. So I think one time the fab was just like, we can't handle this size, so you need to like decrease the size. I think we had to go from 12 megabytes down to 2, I think it was. Yeah, that was fun. But we managed to do it without, you know, sacrificing any quality. That was actually for this one, the Dragos badge, so. All right, so, quick, oh yeah, go ahead.
What's the pinout for these badges?
What's the pinout for these badges?
There's a tweet out there. All right.
There is a tweet out there on that one. So just, hopefully Goetzman echoed it out on the CypherCon, but we tweeted it at CypherCon. There should be a screenshot.
His Twitter handle is Wire Engineer.
All right, question from Discord?
Okay, what's your favorite scope creep feature that you were able to add, and what's a feature that you really wanted to fit in but could not?
You guys
For me, the CypherCon 2019 badge, we had a big LED matrix, big enough that normal driver chips wouldn't do it, and so I got to put an FPGA on it and do all that design work, which was a lot of fun. Probably the second screen on our 2020 badge. Getting to run those simultaneously with one microcontroller was a lot of feature creep and a big challenge. On that same badge, we intended to put IR and just could not fit in the time to add that to the firmware. So I regretted having to remove it, but it would have been a great feature. COVID wouldn't have allowed it anyways.
Does anyone here know the Wisconsin badge, the cheese badge? So you see a yellow one, it's the shape of the state. There's like 50 of the largest cities in Wisconsin are all LEDs on it, and they have little metal touch-sensitive pads around them. But to do it and have the traces all fit on, the processor has to flip modes. It's using the same traces to light up the LEDs as to do the touch-sensitive pads. And I was working on it in the car on the way to DEF CON, bouncing IR off the ceiling in the car, talking between badges. And I was trying to get that processor to flip over fast enough, but stay long enough to do the cap sense of the touch sensitivity, while still having the LEDs bright enough so that it was nice and sparkly. And I just couldn't get there. And I'm still sad about that one.
I think for mine, the Cube badge, which is still my favorite badge to date. So when you fix the computer in the game, you can go into the computer and you can do stuff in the computer. But the feature creep that I particularly liked was that you could go from the computer in your badge to the computer in another badge to the computer in another badge, and you could actually like have a group chat if everybody was logged into the same badge. That was way overkill, but I thought it was really fun. Don't touch the hypercube, that's right. All right, question from Twitter. Where can we pre-order, so we can have all the things?
Twitter.
Twitter. It's always Twitter.
And then with us, it's pre-buy CypherCon digital badge before they run out. Yeah. All right, any more questions from the audience? If not, we can go to Discord.
Have you found anyone in America, and obviously, who are they, have started to compete with China on cost and turnaround for PCBs, specifically the type of prototype and short runs that we use for badges?
Yeah, I haven't found a lot of US board fabs that come even close to cost, but if you need them quick, That's definitely better.
It's kind of hard to go on JLC PCB and look at a 2-layer board that's 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and that's $20 shipped, and then go to Oshpark and that same board's $40. But Oshpark quality is not good enough. It's great. It's equivalent to a production, like a real, this isn't a product board. So whether you scale that up and do a lot of boards with them or only do a couple, it is that quality, period. The boards you get out of China, they're good enough, they're fine, and if that's all you're looking for, you get what you pay for, and that's kind of the bottom line on that.
And I would agree so OSH Park, you pay per 3 PCBs, so they're really good for prototypes, smaller prototypes, and ones that are shipped technically free within the US. Those are really nice. Now, for the Flamingo badge, again, when I mentioned in the opening ceremonies that, the Chinese fabs were closed, so we actually contacted 5 different fabs in America to see who we could afford, honestly. And we had ranges from $80 a board to like $15 a board. And there's no way that a budget, would be able to accommodate $80 a board, not assembled, just straight up board. But the particular, so the pink boards that you guys have, we actually were able to go to the fab. They're called TRC circuits, and they were very reasonably priced. I met the guy who mixed the paints for the solder mask. He was like, I've never made pink solder mask, but I hope this color's okay. And like the boards were already made, so we were kind of like, yes, they're great. Yeah, so in the US, I would say, I've asked a lot of different ones, but TRC circuits, I would recommend them. They were nice to work with. We got to visit their fab, and they're in Minneapolis. All right, next question. What license do you release your code with? If you release your code.
I believe we do MIT. We didn't have any last year, so my memory's a little bit flaky on that, but I think it's MIT. And we'll release under public domain if people want. We just don't want to support it anymore. Going back to the maintenance question. Yeah, we just throw it up on GitHub. It's someone else's problem then.
Yeah, when we do release it, it's MIT license if we can, and usually that is the case. It's just a good license for anything related to hardware, really. There's no strings attached after the fact, so it's a real easy one to use.
Any questions from Discord?
What is your favorite badge built by somebody else?
Go down the line.
Yeah.
DEF CON 26, the toy makers, because it was the badge that made everybody know who I was. It was a really, really fun year.
This is gonna be dumb. Some guy at DEF CON, he made a wood-burned Bill and Ted. One, I can't remember his name in the moment, but it's my favorite. Out of all the badges I've gotten, that one was my favorite find.
For me, it's got to be the paper tape badge that you guys did. It was so much fun, and I actually got to buy one today, so I'm super excited to play with it.
For me, it was probably the St. Con, I don't even know what year it was, but it was the one where you guys had the villages do like different little mini badges. Bloody brilliant. I was like, amazing. Offshoring the like extra little bits to other villages. Clever. Yeah.
As far as badges I don't have, the Ninja Network's DEF CON 18 badge is probably my favorite. That's where I caught the bug.
badges I do have, the CypherCon squid badge is absolutely gorgeous. And they were doing things ahead of stuff we're doing now. So those are probably the two.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say CypherCon. Basically anything they've done so far, it's all been amazing. Nothing in particular from them either. It's just any of the CypherCon badges are great.
Yeah, I'd have to go with the squid.
So that squid was that year, they actually, the ClearCon team is amazing. The whole term badge life was theirs. George came up with that. And badge life, if you are a consumer of the badges, is an appreciation of the work. To the people who make it, it's an expression of the misery. Because it is very, very, very difficult. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of money, a very big risk, and it's all for fun. Most of us don't even do it for a career in any way. But that year was the first badge that had an add-on, and it was not the current shitty add-on, it was the predecessor to the shitty add-on. So the blooper badge is one of my favorite badges, period. It was incredible.
All right, next question. Oh, yes.
How do you decide between a LiPo or something rechargeable versus disposable batteries on a badge?
Can I answer that? Fire. LiPo batteries were really popular in the earlier days. But then we all realized that people keep metal, sharp objects in their bags that poke them.
Oh, yeah.
So different teams use different things, but I refuse to not use anything that's not a AA or AAA or smaller, just not a LiPo.
So I think for us, depends on functionality. Usually if you use a LiPo, then we have to do a sandwich board. And I have a slight little bit of PTSD from those. So it depends on functionality. If you want to have to keep replacing them because it's straining them, or you want them to be able to just plug them in and keep them going.
Yeah, so availability is definitely an issue with that. You should with AA's and AAA's, if you've got 1,000 or 10,000 DEF CON attendees who need new batteries, that's a problem. But again, with the LiPos, yeah, protection for them. If you can't provide that protection, that's bad. The other thing with LiPos is long-term storage. Right? Lots of people like to keep these in a drawer or in a box or whatever. The batteries swell over time. It can be a problem.
Yeah, I think for us, power is always an issue because we always want things to be blinky, right? And, oh, I gotta read.
Light emitting diode, not fire.
Yeah. So actually up here we do have one with LiPos. And for LiPos, two of them. And so you can tell that they're encased, right? Because again, pointy things, and so we didn't want to have fire happening. But the thing about LiPos is that we charge all of these by hand. So we have friends, and now with not being able to have friends over, we would have to individually charge these and just monitor for when the light turns off so we can put the next, take that LiPo off and put the next one on. So we've really gone from that to AA's, because CR2032s, while they're very nice and light, also don't give you the bling, that you want, essentially.
Yeah, the same thing as the rest of the group. Fire is an issue. In PSA, remove the batteries from your badge if you're going to hang them on the wall. Even alkaline batteries, they will off gas and all sorts of crazy stuff. So I think recognizing the fact that people should be taking those out and it's probably just going to be on display for the long term is part of it.
Yeah, and if you're picking a particular battery technology, make sure you triple, quadruple check to make sure DigiKey is going to send the number that you thought you ordered and not exactly half what you thought you ordered, because that sucks.
And don't ever put 4 in a single badge. You will be crucified. Yeah, no more than 2. No more.
And the other thing about LiPo batteries as a whole is an alkaline battery, like I said, you got to charge them and things like that, but you need to give people a means to charge the LiPo battery, not to discharge it, because that's not fun either. That actually adds a significant cost to for battery safety. In general, it adds cost to it. So there's a little bit, a lot of math going on to it as well.
Also, shipping.
Yeah.
Shipping with batteries is not, they don't like it,
It's supposed to go by ground.
which sucks.
All right. Clearly a sore topic. All right. What badge chips are your favorite or that you currently use?
The Nordic NRF52 series, by far my favorite. Very low power, very capable chips. And the new ones now are just getting better. So we've done that, I think, in 2 or 3 designs. Some prototypes we've thrown away, but that's our favorite.
Whenever I'm doing the code on it, there's always a propeller on there, because that's what I use most often, but it's a power-hungry little chip. So, you know, if we're doing that, there's going to be a LiPo on there, and as we all just heard, that complicates everything. And I think we all know what Peter uses.
Yep, I'm stuck in the pick world. I just go to DigiKey and go, what's cheap? Oh, that works.
So I have a new favorite chip, but it's classified. We haven't released that badge yet. But I will say anything that has the ability to be reflashed over USB without code already on it is well worth, just do that. Don't ever do anything else.
I do whatever he tells me to.
Same thing, but Peter does all my code and everything. So people are like, oh, what's this? It's got a pick. Why? Because that's what Peter does. Why does Peter do that? Because that's what he knows, and he programs in assembly because he's crazy. No, that's true. Everything's in assembly.
And discreet.
He's just quiet.
Yeah.
What's the badge component or feature that you will never, ever, ever do again? Aside from LiPos.
I don't even say LiPos are never again.
SD cards.
Touch sense.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know that we've, other than having 4 AA batteries, that's, you know, I don't think we'd do that one again, but as far as like badge features, I don't know. I mean, we'll flock a badge if it's funny enough.
I don't know if you'd call it a feature, but a kit, like a badge kit, it takes longer to put the damn kit together than it does to build the damn badge. When you magnify that by 100, that sucks. Kids.
Printing keycaps.
Key switches, keycaps, don't do
We
it.
won't do it again. We've learned our lesson.
So I got a question for you. What was your yield on the keycap?
You remember?
You're gonna
It was pretty good. How many
you named?
Percentage of successes.
It was probably less than 5% were bad.
Oh yeah, so mine was 50%. I made 250 to use 125.
Yeah, no.
Your mileage may vary.
You know, I think actually in that same grain, our disc badge, which is, I think is beautiful, but I got calluses and blisters putting the mechanism together. I told them after this was done that we would never do another mechanical badge again, but then they came up with an idea and I was like, maybe we'll do that. But with significantly fewer parts, because there were like 40 3D printed parts on that had to be sanded and calibrated and adjusted to create. And it's a beautiful product, but I don't think I could do it again.
Learned our lessons.
Yes, we have learned our lessons. Hopefully, except for that one badge. All right. Do you see many after-con code changes to your badges by you or by third parties?
No, not really. I think we released one fix a couple years later on one of our badges, but nothing really.
Yeah, Eddie was supposed to test one badge and she missed a slight little detail thing, but we managed to sort of spin the problem. The people who found the bug were like, okay, we're gonna give you the patch and you can go out in the community and disseminate it to everyone that you feel is doing a really good job. And they actually went out and they did that. And then of course we put it online too. So, you know, sometimes things happen and just turn it into something good. No?
It's pretty rare that I release more code after the conference. Occasionally there's a little bug that I'll fix. Last year's DEF CON badge, I was really hoping someone would, you know, do a pull request and fix some of the macro pad code. No one ever did, so it's still horrible.
That we know of.
Yeah, normally once we're done, we move on to the next badge. There's no time to turn rack and be like, we shoulda. Maybe when we're like really old.
Yeah, it's really, in my stuff, we just kind of release it, you know, the completed firmware. To be honest, I've only had one person ask for the code, and I told him, I was like, I'll be honest with you, this badge does nothing but blink. Figure out how to do it on our Arduino, it'll actually be better than what this thing can do. We ran that pick to the ground.
All right. Another question? Yep.
Obviously, surface mount LEDs were enabling technologies for badges. What future component or current component that you would like to see cheaper would you love to include in a future badge?
I think you broke our brains.
Micro projectors, maybe?
So our competition is basically sitting up here, and I don't think, you know, we're all playing the same game, so I don't think we can answer this with each other in the room. Ask me later.
I don't know. LiDAR might be kind of cool.
I think
You want to do?
And LiDAR.
more mechatronics.
Mechatronics.
Wait, isn't that mechanical?
Storage, like more storage to do, because a lot of stuff that's really neat with like audio and things like that, not generation of audio, but like playing, you know, Rick Astley and that kind of good stuff, or Slayer. I mean, a Slayer badge would be really annoying for people around you. It's awesome for you though. But that kind of stuff gets kind of limited by space and the overall power. It's a lot of things that it's really, like you can go buy, okay, let me give you the simplest thing. Go to any gift shop and they've got those fans that are foam and it's got a little LED strip on it and you turn it on and it plays, I don't know, Captain America or Batman or some thing. The amount of work that goes into that animation is immense, and they make millions of them and they sell them for $1. I can't even begin. Like I've sat and looked at that product and taken it apart and be like, how could I replicate this? And everything I've come up with, it'd be $50 per stupid fan for me to replicate that, because there's just some things that the individual parts are that price because they're expected to be purchased in the quantities of a million. And we're getting like, well, a lot of our chips now are mostly from the mid-2000s for the most part. They're just trickling down far enough to where they're actually affordable for us.
Yeah, definitely mechanical stuff is a problem. There's also a lot of things that you can get that have to be soldered to the board. Excuse me. So like displays, a lot of them come with a connector that you can't shove it in an actual connector, you have to solder it to the board. And there are machines that do that, and they're really stupidly expensive. And so it's not really an option to use that kind of stuff. You can't do that many.
What was the
by
thing
hand.
that? Oh, yeah, with the 3D printed jig and just crying. A little bit of that. Yes.
There's a lot of brute force and badge making.
Yeah.
And volunteers, depending on the group.
It's
Stronger than we think.
It's like an Amish barn raising, is what we put it as. You know, when we get together to do a badge, because our hackerspace before everything happened would come and help us be pick and place machines and essentially labor. Yeah. What was the thing that Joe used in his badge? Is it the near field?
Oh, the NFC thing.
What is it? Magnetic, near field magnetic something, but it was unobtainium. But it was very interesting technology, and it didn't require people clicking buttons. It was just near field.
Is that the NXTA word?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I thought that was really interesting tech that I would easily incorporate into our badge. Well, I would easily ask him to incorporate into our badges, if it were cheaper or accessible. All right. Oh, yep.
To kind of expand on that, what's your most and least favorite badge-to-badge communication options?
Badge to badge.
Favorite, right?
Yeah.
Most favorite and least favorite.
Favorite
Most
badge-to-badge
favorite and least
communication.
favorite badge communication.
I'm scared of the FCC, so just infrared.
Yeah, honestly, that's why we use it so much, is because it's, not regulated. And it's not interfering with everyone's cell phone in their pocket or other devices that they're playing with for wireless capture of the flag or any of that sort of stuff. Whenever you get 400, 500 people in a building all playing with RF, it gets nasty in the spectrum. So I like light for that, but I think it would be really fun to do ultrasonics for badge to badge. That'd be pretty cool.
Bluetooth is really great, especially on those Nordic chips I mentioned. Least favorite, probably anything sub-gigahertz. Really struggled with that.
Favorite IR because we can solder it easily, and they're not like minuscule parts. Least favorite, I think the one that. Yeah. You mean like the connects that we stole from CypherCon? Those?
The hermaphroditic connector.
I think there were another kind. So we had this DNA badge, which it was like 1x4 pin headers, and there was 2 of them that these individuals had to connect to each other, and that was it took too long for people to connect, and so they felt like more and more awkward as they did it, and so that just didn't work out.
And to Wired's point of fear of the FCC, which is valid, there was actually an incident at one of the DEF CONs that was not badge related, but the hotel blamed badges, the ND badges, because one of the badge makers used a chip that you really wanted to do DOF packets with. That was not what it was for. It did not do it, but that one little tweet caused a hell of a lot of trouble for us for a day. So fear of the man's pretty healthy sometimes. The biggest people are way scarier than the man.
Well, I don't know, but the QueerCon one, the squid,
Yeah.
that was the coolest I've ever seen. And I'm always like, let's do that. And he's like, that's not in our budget. And so I don't even know how it does, but it's beautiful.
It's morning.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's too expensive.
I'd say least favorite are weird connectors that you can't get or replace. I am am guilty of this. I've used them because of budget and other constraints. But using connectors that are made for people to plug and unplug thousands of times, like USB, that's where it's at.
Yeah, I think the ones that we used, that we stole from QueerCon, and used on the DEF CON 26 badges, I think technically they were rated for like 36 connects. There were way more than 36 connects, and so understandably, like there were a lot that broke off, and some that just, coached out afterwards. But yeah. All right, so maybe one last question. Well, I'll ask this question. Yeah. So, what brought you into badges, and what will take you out?
Go down the line. What brought me into badges originally was lost badges. Before I started attending DEF CON, I just thought it was really cool to see art in an unconventional medium, which is exactly why I do what I do. In fact, when I got into it, what really surprised me was the other badge makers approaching me asking how I did what I did when I thought they were hiding all the secrets. And it turned out it was kind of more of a coincidence than anything in some cases. What will take me out of it? My daughter says she misses me and I'm not seeing her enough. Well, my family is more important than badges. It's not really insanity, it's a challenge. Because it looks really difficult to do, and it's a lot of work. I mean, I'm not underselling how much work it is. But when you have your finished product in hand for the first time and it works, the first time it works, that's a really cool feeling. And the thing about it's, everyone's their own worst critic. Every time you look at something you make, you know every mistake you made on it, you know everything wrong with it, you know everything, every feature you cut, every feature that didn't turn out the way you'd hoped it did, even though it's there. You know the whole story, but the people who acquire it don't know that whole story, you don't need to know that whole story. To them, it's just really goddamn cool. And they do things with it. Sometimes they modify it, sometimes they hang it on the wall. One of the coolest things about doing this is when someone 2 years later posts a picture of like, this is my badge collection, and you get to look at it and see which ones are yours. And that's a really cool feeling. It's really, really nice. That said, and I'm sure we all kind of experienced it to a level in 2020. I actually was supposed to do the DEF CON China 2 badge. I got recruited to do that in the middle of January to replace another maker who couldn't do it for reasons. And we were going full bore on that, full steam ahead for a thing that needed to be delivered by April in China. And we had to have everything had to be made in China, everything had to be delivered in China. And I don't speak Chinese, so we were going. Hey, what's going on with this COVID thing? Going, and trying to shut down. And I hit a wall, like literally 100 miles an hour hit a wall, and that broke me for till now. I came here to recharge. It was hard. So it's when you are going full steam, you have to stop for something you never get. So I've seen the start and finish, and I've seen the start and had to stop, and you can never go back to it. That hurts way more than the finished product does. Now, you might get burnout and decide not to go back to it, but there's always more to burnout than just the product.
We got the killer.
Okay.
Yeah.
You go.
We're good. Yeah, okay. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it.